If the universe is everything, then what if anything could possibly wait beyond it? It is a question so old that even silence seems to remember it, yet so impossible that our minds instinctively turn away. Because to imagine what lies behind the universe is to walk to the very edge of existence, where space thins into nothing, where time forgets to tick, and where even thought begins to tremble. We stand there now together, staring into a place that physics avoids and philosophy circles, a place where answers dissolve faster than the questions that birthed them. And still, something calls from beyond that boundary, something quiet, something ancient, something that should not exist yet refuses to be ignored. Perhaps nothing is hiding there. Or perhaps everything we have ever known is only the first layer of a far deeper reality. But how do you explore a place where direction has no meaning, where distance disappears, and where the laws that shaped us simply fall away? The truth is simple. You begin by asking the question you were never meant to ask. And so we ask it. What waits behind the universe, and why does it feel like it is waiting for us? Before space existed, there was nowhere, no direction to point toward, no surface to stand on, no outside to escape into. And yet, when we look at the night sky, something inside us insists on imagining a boundary, a final edge, a last wall of stars beyond which something else must wait. It is an instinct older than language, woven into the way our ancestors looked at horizons, caves, oceans, and clouds. Everything we have ever known has an outside. But the universe is the first thing that doesn't. And that realization is the first fracture in the mirror we call reality. We think of space as a container, a vast black room holding galaxies like dust motes drifting through light. But space is not a room. Space is not even a thing. It is a relationship, a fabric, a field of possibilities connecting matter to matter, time to change, gravity to shape. It doesn't sit there waiting to be filled. It emerges from the matter and energy within the universe itself, unfolding like a story that only exists because events occur inside it. Remove the events and space loses meaning. Remove the universe and space disappears entirely. This is where everyday intuition begins to fail. When we say what S behind the universe, the question smuggles in an assumption that the universe is an object with a backside, a front side, a thickness, a hidden layer. But the universe is not an object drifting in a larger void. It is all space, all distances, all directions. Asking what lies behind it is like asking what S north of the North Pole. The words exist. The answer doesn't. And yet, the question one die. Something in us keeps asking it because we rewired for edges. Still, physics gently reminds us that edges in cosmology behave nothing like the edges of lakes or maps. If the universe were finite, it could loop back on itself like the surface of a sphere, bound yet edgeless. If infinite, it stretches without limit, with no boundary to cross. In neither case is there a beyond. There's no curtain to lift, no backstage, no cosmic hallway where the universe sits like a painting on a wall. The universe contains space. Space does not contain the universe. This is the first rule we must accept, and it is deeply uncomfortable. Our discomfort is important. It tells us how tightly our minds cling to familiar shapes, rooms, boxes, borders. Even when discussing the cosmos, we shrink infinity into geometry we can recognize. We imagine the universe as a bubble because bubbles have outsides. We imagine an expanding sphere because spheres have surfaces. But in cosmology, expansion doesn't mean growing into something else. It means every point inside space is drifting away from every other point. It is a stretching, not a spilling. The universe enlarges without invading anything. There is no external darkness waiting to be filled. The darkness we see is already inside. But let S walk deeper. Let S peel away the layers of intuition one by one until the familiar architecture of the world begins to crumble. Imagine trying to stand outside the universe. What would that even feel like? There is no ground, no air, no temperature, no up or down. There is not even emptiness. Because emptiness is still a kind of space, and space is part of the universe. Outside the universe, even emptiness is impossible. You cannot float there. You cannot fall. You cannot breathe or die or exist. You cannot even place yourself there in imagination. When you try, your mind silently smuggles in a background of void, a blackness, but that blackness is space. And space is the very thing you are trying to escape. So what remains? If there is no space beyond space, what is the universe expanding into? Here, physics answers with a kind of quiet grace, nothing at all. Expansion is not movement outward. It is the continual increase of distance between points within the universe. No external arena is required. The universe is not growing into a pre-existing emptiness. It is growing its own room as it expands. Space is self-created, self-sustaining, self-developing. The universe carries its own stage with it, like a story that writes the paper it is printed on. This is where philosophy returns, whispering questions that physics cannot fully erase. If space exists only inside the universe and no outside can exist, then what does it mean for the universe to be real at all? How can something exist that has no external reference, no position, no environment? Everything we know exists somewhere. But the universe doesn't exist somewhere. It is somewhere. It is the definition of somewhere. Beyond it, the very concept dissolves. This isn't just abstract thinking, it reshapes the emotional architecture of existence. Because if the universe has no outside, then we are living inside, the only place that can exist. There is no external benchmark, no other landscape, no greater sea in which our cosmos floats like a ship. The universe is the totality of place, a single, all-encompassing here. And we are inside it not by choice, but by the simple logic that nothing else exists for us to be inside of. But even this clarity fractures under deeper reflection, because when physics says space cannot exist outside the universe, it is still assuming something, that physics applies everywhere, that the rules inside the universe extend seamlessly to the boundaries of meaning. But what if those rules themselves are local? What if the universe is not the whole of reality, but merely the whole of our space-time? What if the real impossibility is not an outside, but our ability to conceive it? Perhaps something does lie behind the universe, something that is not spatial, not temporal, not any category we possess. Here, the mind trembles again. Because if something exists outside space-time, it cannot be a place. It cannot be a time. It must be something radically different, a kind of otherness that defies language, a realm where existence does not require extension, a reality where the universe is not a bubble but a consequence, not floating in space but emerging from something that has no geometry at all, a something that is nowhere and yet gives rise to everywhere. This possibility creates a strange kind of dizziness, the cognitive dissonance at the heart of Act 1. We find ourselves trapped between two impossibilities. On one hand, physics says there is no outside. On the other, philosophy whispers that an absolute inside feels incomplete. How can everything exist without context? How can a totality have no frame? How can something so vast be utterly alone? The mind searches desperately for a foothold, a metaphor, a crack in the conceptual wall. But every metaphor collapses, every analogy fails, and slowly we begin to understand the truth. The universe is not merely stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. Our intuition is not wrong, it is simply too small. Built for rivers and trees, not for the fabric of existence itself. Yet within this confusion lies a profound intrigue. Because if our intuition fails here, it means we have reached the boundary of human understanding, the frontier where knowledge becomes mystery, and mystery becomes possibility. And in that possibility, something is calling, not as a place, not as a thing, but as a question we are only beginning to be brave enough to ask. So we return to where we began, the mind insisting on an outside, physics refusing to allow one, philosophy refusing to let go of the suspicion that something must exist beyond our greatest frame. And in the tension between these forces, a new question emerges, sharper and more unsettling than the last. If outside cannot exist, then what are we actually trying to see behind? There is a moment in the universe, past so strange, so violent, so tightly folded in on itself that physics refuses to cross its threshold. A moment so early that even the concept of early strains under its weight. This moment is called the Planck time, the first 10:43 seconds after the birth of everything, the first breath after nothing, and it stands before us not as a chapter in cosmic history, but as a wall, a barrier, a shadow so dense that even mathematics goes blind when it tries to approach. We often think the universe began with a flash, a blinding burst of energy expanding into space. But that picture is a later echo, a softened memory of something far more incomprehensible. Before the universe could expand, it had to exist. Before it could cool, it had to endure. And before it could become something we can describe, it passed through an era that no equation has ever survived intact. The Planck era is not the dawn of the cosmos. It is the darkness before the dawn, the place where order has not yet woken and chaos is still dreaming. Imagine the smallest distance you can picture, then shrink it 1,000 times, then 1,000,000,000, then keep shrinking until numbers lose meaning. The Planck length 1.61035 meters is the scale where spacetime itself stops behaving like the smooth fabric Einstein described. It becomes grainy, turbulent, foaming, a boiling sea of quantum uncertainties. Geography dissolves, direction evaporates, nothing stays still long enough to have a location. This is not emptiness, this is not fullness. It is something in between, flickering, unstable, immeasurable. And inside this impossible cauldron, reality was being forged. But let us step carefully, because crossing into the Planck era is not like entering a room. It is like diving into a storm where the rules of storms no longer apply. Gravity is no longer gentle, it is feral, clawing at energy with the strength of 1,000,000,000,000 suns, compressed into a point that has no size. Time is no longer an arrow, it is a flaring spark, igniting and extinguishing so rapidly that even the idea of before and after becomes meaningless. The universe was not a newborn, it was a convulsion. This is where relativity fails, where equations explode into infinities, where quantum mechanics loses its footing, Every law we rely on shatters under the heat and pressure of this first shadow. And so physicists, after walking bravely toward this boundary, do something unexpected. They stop. They draw a line. They accept that the Planck wall is not a place where knowledge ends, but where our version of knowledge ends. The forbidden zone begins here. And that prohibition, that cosmic you cannot go further, is precisely what compels us to look closer. At the Planck scale, space-time behaves like a restless ocean swelling with foam bubbles of geometry, appearing and disappearing faster than light can cross them. This quantum foam is not poetic imagery. It is a literal prediction arising from the union of uncertainty and gravity. Distances fluctuate, curvature spikes. The very fabric of existence becomes froth. If a photon tried to travel across this sea, it wouldn't trace a path. It would jitter through a landscape that reforms itself every instant. The universe was not simply unpredictable, it was unrecognizable, and yet something was happening inside this chaos. Something irreversible, something that would one day grow into galaxies, stars, planets, minds. The Planck era was the crucible, the cosmic pressure chamber, where the initial conditions of everything were set. But why can we see it? Why can our telescopes look beyond this boundary? Because the Planck wall is not a veil. It is a limit of resolution, of physics, of logic itself. Just as you cannot zoom into a photograph indefinitely, at some point it breaks into pixels. The universe also has a lowest pixel, a smallest frame, a shortest tick of time. Beyond that, the picture dissolves into noise. Even if we built a perfect machine, even if we harnessed the total energy of all the stars, we could never observe the Planck era. Not because it is hidden, but because it is fundamentally unknowable. The information simply cannot exist in our universe in any coherent form. Any attempt to probe that scale would collapse the space-time you're trying to measure. It is the ultimate cosmic censorship. But the strangeness goes deeper. The Planck wall marks the point where gravity becomes as strong as every other fundamental force, where space is crushed into quantum uncertainty, where time becomes granular. And because everything is fused together, there is no meaningful difference between matter and energy, between forces and fields, between existence and possibility. All categories collapse into a single storm. For a fleeting instant, the universe did not just break the rules, it was the rules. This realization carries a subtle fear, because if the universe as a beginning is hidden behind a barrier no mind can cross, then the story of our origin contains a silence we can never fill, not a gap in data, a gap in reality, a blind spot in existence itself. And yet in that very silence there is awe, because the Planck era is not an absence. It is the deepest mystery the universe has ever produced, the moment where the cosmos held all future possibilities in a single trembling breath. Everything that would ever exist was encoded in that moment. Every galaxy, every star, every life, every question, every fear, every hope, everything compressed into a reality too dense to describe. But even here, in this forbidden zone, something remarkable emerges. The Planck wall is not just the boundary of our understanding. It is the first sign that something lies beyond understanding. Not necessarily spatially beyond, but conceptually beyond, informationally beyond. A hidden structure, a hidden cause, a hidden story. Physicists call it the need for quantum gravity. a theory that unites the two great frameworks of modern science. But the search for such a theory is also a search for the architecture behind the universe, the blueprint, the origin code, the reason the cosmos behaves the way it does and not some other way. Because if the Planck wall is the first shadow, then something cast that shadow, something deeper than space, something older than time, something untouched by the collapse of physics at the beginning, perhaps a primordial law, perhaps a metastructure, perhaps a canvas upon which space-time itself is painted, or perhaps something stranger, something that does not resemble anything we call a thing. The Planck wall stands as the first doorway to that hidden reality. Not a door we can walk through, but a door whose outline we can sense through the trembling of the equations that fail to pass it. And yet the tension grows, because if we cannot cross this boundary, how can we ever hope to know what lies behind it? How do you read a chapter in a book that has burned away? The answer is both humbling and exhilarating. You search for scars, you search for fingerprints, you search for the patterns that survived after the fire. Because even though we cannot see the Planck era directly, its effects ripple through the cosmos, in the distribution of cosmic microwave background fluctuations, in the balance of matter and antimatter, in the ratios of forces, in the deepest constants of the universe, numbers so precise that a change in the 50th decimal place would erase the possibility of life. These clues did not emerge later. They were forged at the edge of the Planck wall. They are the echoes left behind by the chaos we cannot witness, the whispers of a moment so violent that the universe never forgot it. And this is where the fear transforms back into curiosity, because perhaps the Planck era is not a dead end. Perhaps it is a message encoded in physics itself, a pointer toward a deeper layer of reality, just out of reach, not forbidden but veiled, not unknowable but awaiting translation. Even now, theories attempt to peer beyond it: string theory, loop quantum gravity, emergent spacetime, causal sets. Each offers a different glimpse into the hidden machinery. None agree, none are complete, but all share a single haunting idea. The universe may not be what it seems. It may not be built from space and time. Space and time may be built from something else, and that something else may be the true landscape behind the universe. But to understand that landscape, we must first stand in front of the Planck wall and accept its silence. The first shadow, the first boundary, the first place where reality steps back and refuses to explain itself. Beyond this limit we cannot look, but maybe the universe left clues. When the universe was less than a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second old, something unimaginable happened. A moment earlier, it was a quantum speck, trembling, unstable, smaller than the smallest fraction of space we can describe. Then suddenly, violently, impossibly, it began to grow. Not slowly, not gently, but in a runaway surge so extreme that even the word explosion feels timid beside it. This was inflation, the great expansion, the moment the universe outpaced light itself. A moment when size became meaningless, when distance erupted out of nowhere, when the cosmos multiplied not by 2 or 10 or 1,000, but by numbers so enormous that the human mind folds under their weight. In that instant, the universe didn't simply get bigger, it became vast. And with that vastness came something even stranger, a hidden world, a fragmented eternity, realms of existence that inflation cast forever beyond our reach. To understand this, we need to abandon all sense of scale, all comfort with the visible world, Because inflation didn't stretch galaxies. There were no galaxies yet. It didn't stretch atoms. There were no atoms. Inflation stretched space itself, pulling it so quickly that even light, the fastest thing in the universe, could not keep up. Inflation is not an explosion into space. It is the creation of space faster than anything can move inside it. And that simple, devastating fact becomes the key to everything unobservable. At the beginning of inflation, distances were microscopic, smaller than subatomic scales. Quantum ripples jittered across this infant universe like sparks on a dark ocean. Then inflation surged, and those ripples were torn apart, stretched into cosmic patterns that would one day become galaxies, stars, clusters, filaments, the entire scaffolding of the universe people like us would be born into. But something else happened. Those tiny quantum fluctuations didn't just shape what we can see. They shaped a universe we will never see. Because as inflation raced outward, parts of the universe were carried away faster than any signal could ever cross back. Even today, after 13.8 billion years, most regions created during inflation are still receding from us faster than light due to the continued expansion of spacetime, and they always will. Inflation did not just make a universe, it made countless unreachable worlds, sealed away by the speed of their own birth. This is the first great revelation of Act 3. Most of the universe is not behind us. It is beyond us. Let S step deeper into the mechanics. Imagine 2 points on the early fabric of space-time. Before inflation, they drift close together, exchanging quantum whispers, sharing the same tiny cosmic room. Then inflation hits. The room becomes a hall, then a cathedral, then a continent, then a void so large that the 2 points can never meet again. Not in a year, not in a trillion years, not in all the time the universe will ever have. The speed of light is fast, but the expansion of space is faster. This is the strange loophole allowed by physics. Nothing can move through space faster than light, but space itself can grow faster than light without breaking a single rule. And during inflation, it did, relentlessly, brutally, beautifully. The universe ballooned by a factor so huge that writing it down feels like parody something on the order of 1078 in volume, depending on the model. All of it in far less than a heartbeat. This expansion did not stop because the universe broke. It stopped because the inflating field relaxed, releasing an immense flood of energy that reheated the cosmos into a primordial fireball. That fireball cooled into atoms, stars, galaxies, life. But the rest of the inflaton field? Physics suggests it may not have relaxed everywhere. And here is where the story of inflation opens the door to realms we can barely whisper about. In many inflation models, the ones accepted by leading cosmologists, not fringe speculation, inflation never ends completely. It stops locally in pockets, regions where the field decays and forms a universe like ours. But beyond those pockets, inflation continues. Space keeps doubling, expanding, roaring outward. This is known as eternal inflation, not metaphorically eternal, literally eternal in the mathematics. Universes like ours may be mere bubbles, forming in an ever-expanding sea. Some bubbles grow, some collapse, some never form stars, some team with galaxies, some drift so far apart that they never even know the others exist. They are hidden, not behind walls, but behind infinite distance, a distance that grows faster than time can chase. This is not the sci-fi multiverse of parallel U's and alternate histories. This is inflationary cosmology, the quiet, unsettling possibility that reality is bigger than our universe by a factor beyond imagination. The Great Expansion did not create one cosmos. It may have created all possible ones. But let S return to our world, the observable slice of our universe, a tiny island inside the ocean that inflation left behind. Today we can only see as far as light has traveled in 13.8 billion years, stretched by expansion into a horizon some 46 billion light years away. Beyond that horizon, no signal has ever reached us. No signal ever will. This cosmic horizon is the second great revelation of Act the Theory. Inflation didn't just create unseen regions in the past. It locked most of the universe out of our future. Every moment, more galaxies drift beyond that horizon, carried away by expansion. Their light stretches into darkness, red shifts into silence, and finally disappears. The night sky slowly erases itself, not because it dims, but because inflation's aftermath continues to accelerate space. It is the universe's quiet escape, reality slipping away from us in slow motion. And here, the viewer feels it a sudden, overwhelming smallness, a cosmic insignificance sharper than any philosophical proclamation. Because for the first time we understand that our universe, the one we think of as everything, is already shrinking in terms of what we can ever touch, ever know, ever reclaim. We inhabit a dwindling island in an expanding sea. Most of reality is already gone, but inflation did something else, something beautiful, something haunting. It froze the earliest fluctuations into patterns we can still observe today, patterns etched in the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the universe, fiery youth. These patterns are the fingerprints of inflation. They carry the statistical scars of quantum randomness stretched to cosmic size. They are the echo of a moment when spacetime grew thousands of orders of magnitude larger in an instant. These fingerprints tell us inflation happened, but they also tell us something far stranger. The universe wasn't made smooth by inflation. It was made uneven in exactly the right way to one day form stars and galaxies. Without inflation as microscopic jitters, nothing would exist. No galaxies, no structure, no light, no life. Inflation is the reason we are here to ask questions about inflation. But the scenery of this act is far from comforting. The scale is crushing. The implications destabilize. We stand on a platform of existence that inflation built and simultaneously shattered. For every region inflation delivered to us, it delivered countless more to permanent obscurity realms with separate cosmic histories, separate fates, separate possibilities. And still, the picture grows more dizzying, because if inflation occurred once, it might occur again. If inflation happened here, it may be happening now somewhere unimaginably distant. If inflation stopped in our region, it may have never stopped in others. The universe is not a singular story. It may be a forest of stories growing from the same deep roots, but we cannot read those other stories. Their pages are carried away faster than light can deliver them. This is the emotional spine of Act 3. The universe we see is only a sliver of what exists, a thin slice cut from a cosmic loaf too large to comprehend. We live inside a horizon, a boundary not of walls but of time, a limit not imposed by galaxies but by light. And the universe does not care that we cannot follow it. It keeps expanding, stretching, accelerating, slipping further into a future where most of its own regions will fade beyond visibility. It is a quiet tragedy, and an overwhelming beauty, a reminder that existence is always larger than what can be observed. So we end this act with the final, humbling truth. Inflation did not simply create space, it created the unreachable. Most of reality is already gone beyond reach. There is a boundary stitched into the fabric of our reality. Not a wall, not a veil, not a curtain of matter or energy. It is a horizon, a cosmic shoreline where the ocean of light, after traveling for 13.8 billion years, finally gives up. Beyond this line, the universe continues vast and alive. But its light will never reach us. Its stories will never arrive. Its galaxies will drift forever out of our grasp, slipping into a silence that no telescope will ever break. This is the cosmic horizon, the limit of the observable universe. And it is here at this quiet edge that the universe reveals its most unsettling truth. Most of what exists we can never see. The first instinct is to imagine a sphere, a giant bubble of visibility around us, stretching roughly 46 billion light years in all directions. Everything inside that bubble is part of our observable universe. Everything outside is not. But this idea, while useful, is dangerously comforting. It suggests an outside we might reach if only we were faster, braver, more advanced. But speed 1T help, courage 1T help, technology 1T help. Because the cosmic horizon is not a frontier we can cross, it is the limit of causality itself, the farthest distance from which light has had enough time to reach us since the birth of spacetime. And as the universe continues its expansion, not slowing but accelerating, that horizon grows, not outward, but inward, swallowing the stars. This is the sorrow of cosmology. Every second, galaxies drift beyond our cosmic horizon, their light red-shifting into wavelengths too stretched to ever return. They slip away, not because they're moving away from us, but because space is expanding between us faster than light can bridge the gap. Their stories freeze, their worlds darken, their histories become unreachable chapters torn from the book of reality. And we remain here inside a shrinking island of illumination. But let us understand this horizon more deeply. The cosmic horizon is not a point in space, not a place we could aim a spacecraft toward. It is a moving, shifting boundary defined by the physics of light and the expansion of space-time. A galaxy on the edge of visibility today might drift beyond it tomorrow. A region once visible might fade into permanent obscurity. The horizon is a living limit, receding, dissolving, rewriting the boundaries of what is real to us. To exist inside a universe with such a boundary is a philosophical nightmare, because it forces us to confront an idea we rarely consider. Existence is larger than experience. Reality is larger than knowing. The universe is larger than the part we are allowed to see. Behind the cosmic horizon lie regions that are as real as our own galaxies forming, dying, merging, stars collapsing into black holes, superclusters migrating across cosmic webs, civilizations perhaps rising around distant suns, not parallel universes, not speculations. These aren't fantasy worlds. These are simply parts of our universe that no light will ever deliver to us. The unreachable is not imaginary. It is merely too far away. And here, a quiet grief settles over the mind. Because we are creatures built for horizons. Since the dawn of our species, horizons meant challenges, boundaries meant destinations, oceans were crossed, mountains climbed, skies conquered. Yet here for the first time we face a horizon no journey can breach. The universe has given us a limit that no amount of desire can overcome. But what lies beyond this unreachable boundary? What fills the darkness outside our observable bubble? First, more the same galaxies, clusters, dark matter halos, swirling in gravitational embrace, filaments stretching like cosmic highways through the insane vastness of space. But as we move further outward, differences begin to multiply. Inflation, the great expansion we explored in the last act, stretched quantum fluctuations into structures so enormous that many lie far beyond anything we will ever detect. These structures may be the size of superclusters, chains of matter and void that never entered our cosmic horizon at all. They exist in the universe's architecture, but not in ours. Some cosmologists suggest that entire regions of spacetime might have slightly different densities, different curvature, even different primordial conditions. These differences, written into the earliest ripples of the cosmos, could produce variations in galaxy formation, in the distribution of matter, even in the balance of forces. Not different physics, but different history. Other regions may be older or younger relative to the cosmic average. Some may have formed stars earlier, burned through them faster, and slipped into darkness while the Earth was still molten. Beyond our horizon, we might find galaxies that never had the chance to form stars. At all cold, dim regions where primordial gas failed to clump into anything luminous. We might find galaxies where star formation was so rapid that massive black holes grew at terrifying speeds, dominating entire clusters. We might find structures so immense that even if light could escape, their scale would overwhelm comprehension. And then there is the possibility, still grounded in legitimate models, that space beyond the horizon contains pockets of slightly different physical constants, tiny deviations, a universe made of familiar ingredients but mixed in unfamiliar proportions. And those proportions could change everything: the stability of atoms, the behavior of gravity, the longevity of stars. These are not separate universes. These are simply distant regions of our own. Regions sealed away not by walls but by time. And yet the fear lingers. Because if the universe contains regions forever unreachable, then we occupy a cosmic island, a small one, a fragile one, a lonely one. Our observable universe, the entirety of everything humans will ever detect, is just a bubble inside a far larger structure. A single luminous drop inside a sea of unreachable fireflies. This isolation is not poetic exaggeration. It is mathematically precise. Every year, roughly 3 galaxies cross permanently beyond our horizon. Gone, silent, irretrievable. Over trillions of years, the night sky will empty. Galaxies that once filled our telescopes will fade, vanish, and slip into eternal darkness. The future universe will look like a starless void to any civilization that awakens then. They will never know the grandeur we see today. They will grow up inside a cosmic desert, unaware that beyond their own dark horizon lies a universe once filled with brilliance. And yet the horizon hides more than distant galaxies. It hides our past. There are structures so vast that their birth signals will never reach us. Their formation began too far away. Their light travels too slowly. Their stories are swallowed by the accelerating expansion of space. Even if we waited for eternity, we would never witness them. It is as if the universe is writing an infinite book, but only the first chapter is handed to us. The rest is sealed away by a horizon we cannot cross. This is the emotional core of Act 4, not fear of the unknown, but sorrow for the unknowable, a quiet grief that settles on the soul when we realize the universe is not hiding secrets from us. Maliciously, it is simply too big for us to hold. And yet acceptance begins to grow, because this limit, heartbreaking as it is, also gives shape to our existence. Without a cosmic horizon, there would be no observable universe, no cosmic microwave background, no structure preserved in the sky. The horizon is the frame through which we see reality. It is the reason we understand anything at all. The boundary that blocks us also defines us. And so the act slows. The emotional turbulence quiets. We breathe in the enormity of what lies beyond, not as something stolen, but as something too vast for any one civilization to consume. The cosmic horizon is not a tragedy. It is a reminder that knowledge is finite, that understanding is fragile, that existence exceeds our grasp by design. And perhaps in that limitation there is a kind of mercy, a kind of humility, a kind of wonder, because standing at the edge of the observable universe, knowing that beyond lies an ocean of unreachable galaxies, unseen structures, unknown histories, ye are forced to ask a final question, a soft one, a deeply human one. What kind of universe hides more than it reveals? For centuries, we believed the universe was made of stars, of dust, of the luminous things we could point to and name. The cosmos seemed honest, a glowing cathedral built for matter we could touch, measure, model, and understand. But as our tools sharpened, a quiet suspicion began to grow, a strange misalignment, a cosmic discrepancy. Galaxies spun too fast, clusters held together too tightly, light bent where no visible mass existed. Something unseen was pulling the strings, and slowly, painfully, the truth emerged. Most of the universe is not made of stars. Most of the universe is not made of atoms. Most of the universe is not made of anything we can see. The universe is built on an invisible frame. This realization struck physics like a revelation wrapped in dread, because it forced us to admit that the cosmos we know, the shimmering five, made of planets, people, dust, and flame, is only the surface of a deeper structure. A structure carved from something that does not glow, does not interact, does not reveal itself, except through its gravity. We call it dark matter. But dark is a kindness. It is not blackness. It is not shadow. It is absence. Pure, stubborn absence. We cannot touch dark matter. We cannot scatter light off it. We cannot trap it in detectors or bottle it or burn it or break it. And yet, without it, every galaxy in the universe would fly apart like sparks from a grinding wheel. Dark matter is the silent architect, the unseen skeleton, the invisible gravity scaffold upon which all cosmic structure hangs. Galaxies do not simply float in space. They sit inside halos of dark matter, vast spheres of invisible mass extending far beyond the visible disk. If you could see these halos, galaxies would look like fireflies trapped inside enormous glass orbs, each orb containing hundreds or thousands of times more mass than the glowing insect at its center. The universe is not a painting. It is a ghost structure illuminated by the thinnest layer of glowing dust. And once we realize that matter we can see is almost irrelevant, a deeper shift happened not in physics, but in philosophy. The question, what is hiding behind the universe, bent inward and became something far stranger. What is hiding within the universe? What is the 95 we cannot see? Why does the universe reveal so little of itself? This is where humility begins, because the universe is not made out of things we understand. It is framed by mysteries that refuse to be named. But dark matter is only half of that frame. The other half is darker still. It took the 20th century to discover that most of the universe's mass is invisible. It took the 21st to discover that most of its fate is invisible too. And this second discovery is more dizzying, more destabilizing, more cosmically silent. The expansion of the universe is not slowing. It is accelerating. Space is not coasting outward. It is speeding up as if pushed from within by a repulsive force. This force is not matter, not energy in any familiar sense. It does not clump. It does not glow. It does not react. It simply stretches space itself. We call it dark energy. And the name is another kindness, a linguistic bandage placed over an intellectual wound. Because energy is a word we use when we understand something. Dark energy is the opposite, a phenomenon we can measure but not explain. A pressure that accelerates the universe's expansion, driving galaxies apart faster and faster, ensuring that the cosmic horizon grows darker with every passing epoch. Dark energy is not pushing galaxies outward through space. It is pushing space itself outward, increasing the distance between objects, even as they remain motionless. If dark matter is the skeleton, dark energy is the breath, the expanding inhalation that stretches the cosmic fabric thinner with each passing moment, and together they form the dark frame, the invisible machinery that shapes everything we can see. But here is the paradox that hurts the most. The visible universe, the stars, the nebulae, the galaxies, is not the blueprint. It is the ornament. It is the embroidery on a garment woven from darkness. The structure of the universe is not determined by the matter we can study in laboratories. It is determined by the matter and energy we cannot touch. And this leads to a deeper, quieter astonishment. Dark matter created the cosmic web, the vast network of filaments and voids that give the universe its large-scale structure. It sculpted the landscape. It chose where galaxies could form and where emptiness would reign. Without it, the cosmos would be a smooth mist of evenly spread particles, featureless, lifeless, motionless. A universe without dark matter would be a universe without structure, and thus without us. We exist because invisible matter built a framework strong enough for visible matter to gather into complexity. And dark energy? It is deciding how the story ends. Because as space accelerates outward, galaxies recede faster and faster. In the far future, all but the nearest galaxies will vanish from view. Their light will redshift into wavelengths, too stretched to ever reach us. The universe will grow darker, colder, emptier. Eventually, only a few local galaxies, gravitationally bound, will remain visible in an ocean of nothing. Dark energy is rewriting the fate of everything. But the emotional core of this act is not fear, it is wonder, sharpened by humility. Because for the first time in human history, we must admit a truth we were never prepared to face. We do not live in a universe of light. We live in a universe of shadow. Light is the exception. Darkness is the rule. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is the scientific description of our cosmos. Only 5 of the universe is made of normal matter. Everything we have ever seen, touched, loved, feared, every atom in every star and every planet belongs to that tiny fraction. The rest is invisible, untouchable, unknowable, at least for now. But the invisibility of the universe is not its cruelty. It is its character. Because the more physics progresses, the more it reveals that the visible world is a thin surface laid over a deeper structure, a structure that holds the universe together while remaining forever out of sight. And in that realization, the story turns inward again. Dark matter shapes the galaxy we live in, holding the Milky Way together as it spins. Dark energy shapes the universe we live in, dictating how space evolves as a whole. These forces are not distant, they are not elsewhere, they are here, inside the room you are sitting in, inside the earth, inside your body. Dark matter particles, whatever they are, pass through you in unimaginable numbers every second, like ghosts that do not leave scratches. Dark energy flows through the vacuum between atoms, quietly stretching space-time itself while you breathe. We live within the dark frame, not outside it, not beside it, inside it. This is the quiet revelation that Act 5 delivers. The universe is not hiding behind a horizon or beyond its boundaries. It is hiding within its own fabric. The cosmos is built from invisible laws, invisible fields, invisible forces that shape every moment of existence. Everything we see is only the illuminated fraction of a world overwhelmingly dark. And yet we understand none of it. Dark matter may be a new particle, or an entire hidden sector of physics, or a modification of gravity, or something stranger, something that does not fit inside categories we have words for. Dark energy may be a field, or a constant, or the curvature of higher dimensions, or a property of the vacuum itself, or something the universe does not yet permit us to comprehend. We stand here in the 21st century surrounded by advanced instruments, global telescopes, spacecraft, particle colliders, and still 95% of reality remains invisible. The more we discover, the more the universe disappears. There comes a moment in every cosmic journey where the universe, vast as it already is, begins to feel too small. Not because we have understood it, but because we begin to sense its limits. The cosmic horizon showed us how much lies beyond our reach. Dark matter and dark energy revealed how much lies within our own world unseen. But now we take a step deeper into territory where science and imagination merge like currents at the edge of a continent. This is the act where we ask the forbidden question: what if our universe is not the universe? What if it is only one room in a much larger structure, one coastline on an immeasurable ocean? And perhaps most unsettling of all, why should reality stop at just one? For centuries, the word universe meant everything, all things, all space, all time, all existence. But slowly, quietly, physics has begun whispering a different possibility that everything might be far larger than the bubble of space-time we inhabit, that our cosmos may be just one example of a deeper pattern, a single flowering branch on an unseen, infinite tree. The multiverse, a word so abused by fiction that many dismiss it. But in physics, the idea is not an escape into fantasy. It is a consequence, a natural outgrowth of theories that already describe our universe remarkably well. So let us walk through the landscapes beyond our cosmic bubble, not as believers, not as deniers, but as wanderers exploring the possible. The first landscape is the most conservative, the inflationary multiverse. We met inflation earlier, the rapid expansion that blew the universe into a vast, smooth expanse. But inflation, in many models, does not end everywhere at once. It ends in patches, pockets, bubbles. In one patch, inflation stops and a universe like ours ignites. In another patch, inflation continues, stretching space indefinitely. In yet another patch, it stops again, forming a second universe. And so the process repeats eternally, endlessly, like a cosmic orchard perpetually budding, new universes. Each bubble is a universe. Each universe is sealed off by expansion. Each realm is forever unreachable by any other. This is the inflationary multiverse, not a fantasy, but a prediction sitting quietly at the edge of our best cosmological models. It is a natural byproduct, not an exotic add-on. In this picture, the universe we see is one drop in a storm of universes, a single firefly in a field full of them, each glowing with its own laws, its own conditions, its own cosmic history. Some might be hostile and sterile. Others might be strange and vibrant. Most might be unrecognizable, defined by different physical constants, different forms of matter, different expressions of gravity or light. And yet, all of them are real as ours, simply separated by distances that expand faster than time can catch. But let us step further into stranger territory. Quantum mechanics. The physics of the very small gives us another landscape, a landscape built not from inflation but from possibility itself. In the quantum world, particles do not have definite states until measured. They exist in clouds of potential overlapping realities, waiting to crystallize into one. The mathematics suggests something bizarre. Every quantum possibility is realized somewhere. This leads us to the many worlds interpretation. In this view, the universe does not collapse possibilities. It branches endlessly, profoundly, silently. Every quantum event creates a splitting, a divergence, a new universe where the alternative outcome plays out. The universe becomes a fractal of realities, each as real as the last, each containing a version of events that unfolded differently. This is not a multiverse of space. It is a multiverse of stories, a multiverse of timelines, not parallel in space, but parallel in meaning. It is overwhelming to imagine an infinite orchard of universes branching at every instant, producing a tapestry so immense that counting its threads would be like trying to count every grain of sand on every beach of every planet, in every galaxy, in every universe. Yet many worlds is not a fantasy. It is simply what happens if quantum mechanics is taken literally. Still, we move deeper, into a realm stranger still brain cosmology. Here the universe is not a bubble nor a timeline, but a surface, a three-dimensional membrane floating in a higher dimensional space. Our universe in this view is like a sheet of paper drifting in a vast invisible volume. Other sheets may float beside us, parallel, untouched, perhaps only micrometers away, in a dimension we cannot perceive. This is the multiverse of higher dimensions, the landscape of string theory, the cosmic library, where each page is a universe, each universe with its own rules, its own symmetries, its own shape of space-time. Sometimes these brains might collide, birthing universes in bursts of unimaginable energy. Sometimes they drift eternally, never touching. And sometimes a brain may ripple like cloth shaken by a breeze, creating gravitational waves that echo across the hidden dimensions. In this view, the universe is not alone. It is one surface among many. But let us pause, because the question that haunts us is not how many universes exist. The deeper question is, what is a universe? Why should reality have only one? Why should existence confine itself to a single set of laws, a single set of constants, a single cosmic story? Nothing in physics demands uniqueness. Uniqueness is an assumption, a relic of human desire for simplicity. But the universe has never been simple. Nature prefers abundance. Stars by the billions, galaxies by the trillions, atoms beyond counting, particles in endless combinations. Why should universes be any different? And here, philosophy rises to the foreground. If there are other universes, are they part of existence, or is existence simply the totality of them all? Does universe stop being the word for everything and become merely the word for one cosmic region among countless others? The mind begins to tremble, because to accept the possibility of a multiverse is to accept that our universe is not special, not central, not fundamental. It is simply one way reality can be, one expression among infinite expressions. And emotionally, this fractures us not with fear, but with a deep, dreamlike awe. Because if the multiverse exists, then every answer opens into an ocean of deeper questions. What do universes emerge from? What selects their properties? Is there a higher order structure, a meta-law governing the birth of universes themselves? And if there is it physics or something we do not have words for? In these speculative landscapes, something remarkable happens. Science becomes indistinguishable from philosophy. Philosophy becomes indistinguishable from wonder. Wonder becomes indistinguishable from possibility. This is the emotional heart of Act 6, the sense of standing at an infinite shore, watching wave after wave of potential universes crash against a horizon no mind can ever cross. Even if we never see them, the mere possibility transforms our understanding, because the universe we live in suddenly feels like a tiny chamber in a mansion with endless wings, a single spark in a vast bonfire of realities. Perhaps there are universes where gravity is stronger, pulling matter into stars that burn out in minutes. Perhaps there are universes where atoms never formed, where the landscape is a cold, structureless fog. Perhaps there are universes where dark energy is weaker, allowing superclusters to grow unimaginably larger. Perhaps there are universes where life blooms everywhere or nowhere. Perhaps there are universes where physics is so alien that nothing within them could even be called matter or energy, where time does not flow, where space does not stretch, where existence feels nothing like existence. And here the mind retreats, not in fear, but in surrender. Because the multiverse, if it exists, is not something we can explore with rockets or telescopes. It is something we explore through imagination shaped by mathematics, through philosophical courage, through the willingness to accept that our universe is not the frame of reality, but a single painting in a gallery without walls. And yet, the question grows stranger still. If there are infinite universes, what is the difference between existence and possibility? Is every universe that can exist simply guaranteed to exist? Is our universe one thread woven from a tapestry of infinite patterns? And most haunting of all, if infinite universes exist, what is ours hiding from? What does it choose to reveal? What does it choose to conceal? In the end, Act 6 does not provide answers. It provides perspective, the dizzying realization that our universe may be one story among many, one flame in a field of stars without number, one whisper in an endless cathedral of realities. And so we drift dreamlike through these speculative landscapes, knowing that even if we never visit them, they reshape the way we see our own world. If there are infinite universes, what is ours hiding from? There is a point in every journey where the traveler realizes the landscape is not the only thing with limits. The mind that gazes upon it has limits too. We have crossed cosmic horizons, drifted through inflationary seas, wondered about invisible matter, speculated about other universes. But now we turn inward toward the final boundary, the one we carry inside our skulls. The cosmic veil does not just hang at the edges of space, it hangs at the edges of thought. This realization arrives softly, like a whisper slipping under the door of consciousness. What if the universe has no obligation to make itself knowable? What if the true walls, not made of space-time, but made of mind? For thousands of years, humans believe we were designed to understand the world, that our senses were trustworthy windows onto reality, that our intellect, if sharpened enough, could carve its way to absolute truth. But slowly, science began revealing a quieter, more unsettling possibility that our perception is not a window. It is a filter, a simplification, a survival tool shaped by evolution to navigate rivers and predators and fruit-bearing trees, not the architecture of existence. We see almost nothing. We understand even less. And yet we mistake this sliver for the whole. The brain receives millions of sensory signals every second, but your conscious mind gets only a fraction, curated, compressed, edited. Your eyes detect less than one of the electromagnetic spectrum. Your ears capture a narrow band of vibrations. Your sense of time is tuned to the speed of your neurons, not the tick of the universe. Your brain does not show you the world. It shows you a model of the world, and even that model is incomplete. We walk through a hallucination so stable we call it reality. And if our senses are limited, why should our intellect be limitless? Mathematics, logic, physics, these two are human constructions, languages carved from the patterns our minds can grasp. We assume the universe speaks these languages. But what if it speaks in ways that exceed them? What if reality uses symmetries we cannot imagine, geometries we cannot visualize, laws we cannot express? Perhaps the universe is not mysterious. Perhaps we are simply not built to understand it. This is the cognitive boundary, the place where the human brain encounters questions it was never designed to answer. What came before the Big Bang? What lies beyond space-time? Why are the laws of nature the way they are? What breathes fire into equations and gives them the power to create form? These questions may not have answers we can hold. And here, the cosmic story folds back into the story of us. Because the more we push against the veil of knowledge through telescopes, particle accelerators, philosophical reflection, the more we sense that the veil might be woven into the universe intentionally, not purposefully, not maliciously, but structurally. Some truths are hidden because the universe does not encode them. Others are hidden because the universe encodes them too deeply. And some are hidden because our minds simply cannot bear their shape. Physics reaches its limits at the Planck scale. Mathematics reaches its limits in incompleteness theorems. Neuroscience reaches its limits inside the skull. And consciousness remains the deepest limit of all. We cannot examine reality without examining it through ourselves. And we cannot examine ourselves without using the very tool we are trying to analyze. It is a hall of mirrors. You cannot step outside the universe. You cannot step outside the brain. You cannot step outside perception. You cannot step outside thought. We are observers trapped inside the machinery of observation. But the deeper irony is this. The universe might not hide its truths out of malice or intention. It may simply be structured in ways that exceed the bandwidth of biological brains. Imagine trying to teach quantum field theory to a beetle. Imagine trying to explain consciousness to a stone. Now imagine what truths exist for which our minds are the beetles and the stones. Humility becomes the only wise response, but this humility is not despair, it is expansion, because the boundaries of knowledge, painful as they are, reveal something profound. Knowledge itself is not a stable object, it is a horizon. It recedes as we approach, it stretches outward in response to our touch. Every discovery opens a deeper mystery. We once believed Earth was the center, then the sun, then the galaxy, then the observable universe. And now even the universe itself may be a mere bubble among infinite bubbles. At each step, we were forced to admit we understood less than we thought. And with each admission, the cosmos grew larger. Ignorance becomes the fuel of discovery. But there is another truth tucked beneath this veil, an emotional one. We are not outside observers watching the universe unfold. We are participants. We are part of the physics we study. Consciousness is not separate from the cosmos. It is an expression of it, a product of it, a ripple in the brain of a species trying to understand the ocean it rose from. When a human stares at the stars, the universe is looking at itself. When a mind questions reality, reality is questioning itself. When we hit the boundaries of knowledge, perhaps the cosmos is simply discovering its own limits through us. And yet the limits remain. We do not know why the laws of physics exist. We do not know what set the initial conditions of the universe. We do not know why something exists instead of nothing. We do not know why consciousness appears within matter. We do not know whether mathematics is discovered or invented. We do not know whether reality is fundamentally knowable at all. Every time we peel back a layer, a deeper one emerges. Every time a mystery dissolves, a greater one forms. Every time we say we understand, the universe whispers, not yet. This is the cosmic veil. Not a boundary of light, not a wall of space, but a limit born from the simple truth that humans are finite creatures inside an infinite reality. Perhaps the universe is transparent. Perhaps everything is right in front of us. Perhaps we are surrounded by truths so vast they blend into the background, too large or too subtle for our narrow cognitive aperture. A fish in water does not see the water. A mind in spacetime may not see spacetime. A consciousness inside the universe may not grasp the whole. We may be living inside the answer, blind because we are made of the same fabric we try to unravel. And so the act slows. We turn from galaxies to neurons, from dark matter to thought, from cosmic horizons to cognitive horizons. We stand at the edge of knowing, aware that the edge may never move far enough. Perhaps the ultimate barrier is not the universe's size, but our own. Perhaps our minds evolved to survive, not to comprehend. Perhaps our intuition is too local, too earthbound, too narrow. Perhaps the deeper truths of reality can only be apprehended by forms of intelligence that do not yet exist, or by none at all. This is not defeat, it is acceptance, a calm recognition that truth can exceed understanding without losing its beauty. In fact, its beauty might depend on its mystery. We do not need to know everything to feel awe. We do not need to pierce the cosmic veil to sense its presence. We do not need absolute knowledge to belong to the universe. We already belong. We always have. But still, the final question hums under the surface, soft and unsettling. Maybe the universe isn't hiding from us. Maybe our minds are too small to see it. In the beginning, we asked a simple, impossible question. If the universe is everything, what lies behind it? Across our journey, we chase that question to the edges of space, through the fire of the Planck era, into the unreachable realms beyond the cosmic horizon and across the invisible architecture of dark matter and dark energy. We wandered through other universes in imagination and then turned inward to confront the veil inside the human mind. And now, returning to the place where we began, the question feels different. Maybe there is no behind. Maybe there is no outside, no hidden chamber waiting to be revealed. Maybe the universe is not a box with a back wall, but a self-contained story whose true shape cannot be held all at once. Or perhaps behind the universe is not a region at all, but a truth too large for the mind, that seeks it, a truth that cannot be pointed to, only approached, a truth woven into existence itself. We often think mysteries are things waiting to be solved, but some mysteries are horizons. They move as we move, they widen as we understand, and in that widening, something beautiful happens. The universe stops being a puzzle and becomes a presence that does not need to be fully known to be deeply felt. So when we ask what hides behind the universe, perhaps we are really asking what hides behind ourselves, behind our expectations, our limitations, our longing for final answers. And perhaps the universe was never hiding anything. Perhaps it is we who are still opening our eyes. Silence